Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody, to our global audience. We're so happy and thrilled to have you with us today in another TNM Unplugged conversation, which is set to uplift your heart, your soul, and your mind to the next level and beyond, to help you learn more about life, learn more about business, learn more about yourself. And today we have a wonderful elevation with Vivian Acquah. I met her a few months ago and I was super impressed because I was working on the project, on the proposal. It was really fast paced. We needed to do something quickly together. We just came together in this collaboration, managed to do what we needed to do, kicked it off, and created a new partnership and friendship. And I'm so grateful to have her with us today because the topic of today, it's all about diversity and inclusion. Vivian is an advocate for that. She's a consultant. She's a founder of Amplify DEI. She performs delicate tasks in the workplace to become much more inclusive, much more diverse, much more equitable. Her mission is to inspire organizations and leaders to go beyond surface level of diversity initiatives to create more environments when everybody feels valued, included, and empowered. And in today's world, as we know, diversity and equity and inclusion have more. They're not any longer buzzwords. I remember at the time when I was working with this closely, it became something that which was a buzzword. But today, it really became essential pillars of successful and forward-thinking organizations. Companies that are realizing and fostering this culture, they're realizing that employees are staying with them, they're valuing them, they're appreciating and honoring them. It's becoming an imperative instead of just a buzzword. But it's also becoming something that is part of our culture and sociological fabric. And also it's helping us to foster innovation, resilience, growth. So there's a lot of benefits when we look into this complex and sometimes misunderstood term. And today we're going to be, looking into this from Vivian's point of view. We're going to be talking about it. We're going to see how can we go beyond box ticking, because a lot of the organization ticks the boxes and they think this is done and now we're happy and hunky-dory. But we really want to do it for real and have real conversations with Vivian today. So once again, Vivian, thank you so much for joining. How are you today?
Thank you, Sora, for having me. And I'm really excited about our conversation. I'm good. I'm well. I'm happy. And also, while you were talking, I was thinking about, besides the normal positive things about activating diversity, equity, and inclusion in your company, when you look at Europe or globally right now, the world is dealing with a talent shortage, right? So if you're not providing the initiative, the policies, the procedures, or the activation of diversity, equity, inclusion, guess what? Your people, your talent will not stay within your company. And if they are not staying within your company, that means that you are stifling the business growth, that you are stifling the organization goals, right? So I just wanted to add that, because I know that many leaders are listening or watching this episode. And I also want the leaders to win. I want everybody within your team to be able to win. And to do that, we all have to embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion and make sure that your talent stays longer than 1 year. It doesn't move over to the next person or the next company because of you not valuing diversity, equity, and inclusion enough.
Yeah. So I always ask this opening question for all my guests because I'm curious about your life journey, about your soul journey, about your journey. How did you end up being an advocate, being somebody who's passionate about this topic, somebody who's standing for it? What was something that inspired you to really step into that space?
I would say the inspiration comes from my child. So Orlando, he is at the moment 11, and I call him my life coach. So to backtrack a little bit, I started my career as a consultant, first financial, then I became a bridge builder between finance and IT, and ended up being IT consultant, still working in the finance domain. Throughout my work career as an employee, I face different isms, right? Some places are really good. Some places do have the elements of an inclusive workplace, and some places resemble Hell's Kitchen, right, by Gordon Ramsay. And it's really that worse where I've learned a lot, but I also went through a lot of hardship. And the hardship that was a tipping point for me was dealing with maternal wall bias, where I disclosed my pregnancy at 5 weeks pregnant. A lot of people were asking me, like, why did you do that? Well, I was working for a very small company, IT company. I had 5 managers, 5 leaders, and I wanted to be open about it. Instead of being met with empathy and sympathy, I was met with bullying and harassment. And to me, it felt like I cheated on the company and on my leaders because I became pregnant. And it impacted my well-being in a huge way. I'm not going to share any details, but it did impact me where it could have been dangerous for my child. So I'm lucky and blessed and grateful that my child is here because he showed me a different way. But I also want to share my story because till this day, there are so many parents, not only women, also fathers, who are being penalized for taking better care of their family or for taking a leave of absence or working less hours because they want to take care of the family. We cannot demand people to only cater for the workplace, but then forget everything what's happening, in their personal life, because we need to integrate the work life integration needs to be there so that the people can bring out the best self. So through this hurtful situation, there was to me a great opportunity to not only heal myself throughout this journey, but also help organizations with creating a virtual ground for the inclusive seeds to be able to land. Because I'm on a mission. I have a son who's 11, and I don't know if he's going to be an employer or if he's going to set up his own company. I hope the latter, but still, I do want to do my best to create an environment where he doesn't deal with the same hardship that I dealt with. So that's my why. That's my why.
And it's always fascinating to me when somebody feels super passionate about certain cause and stands for something. It always comes from this pain or difficult challenge. It's like somehow life creates that for all of us in our hero. It comes the moment when the hero goes to the hardship and really, really goes down. But then later on, if we look into this from the most positive perspective and we understand what was the key lesson, then we engage and we become somebody who stands for that. And I love your hero's journey story. It sounds to me like you understood it. It was challenging. It was tough. We don't need to go into details, but then that inspired you to be somebody who is going to say, hold on a second, we really need to address this in the most beautiful way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Orlando doesn't know it that very well. I think that by the time that he becomes older, that he understands what a pivotal role he played in my life. But also, you have to realize I've shared an online video about the growth mindset being shared by him, where he stopped us, his parents, during a conversation and told us that's fixed mindset at 4 years old. Mind you, 4 years. And I recorded, that not that particular conversation, but I recorded him like, if a 4-year-old can learn about the growth and fixed mindset, why is it so challenging for the workplace, for people to understand that we need to create an environment where people can learn? And to be able to learn, you also need to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes so that you don't end up in a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So he's so much more, and kids are the most valuable teachers, coaches, and he might hear this later on and claim his value or his fee for coaching me. But I appreciate the valuable lesson that he has taught me and his dad so far.
I can completely vouch for that. I have 2 children, and both of them are my coaches. I think when we open as parents to receive that, position ourselves that we know everything. We are not vulnerable enough to understand.
Yeah,
this is all being there, extension of us teaching us. The dynamics changes, so I can really understand fully what you're saying because I'm also in that same space. My son taught me about abundance, but it's a different podcast. And he really taught me what does it mean to live an abundant life. That I didn't understand at that moment in time, but that was his frequency.
Yeah.
So tell me, in your work, you're facing probably some of the misconceptions about the diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. So my question here, because I really want us to go a little bit deeper and really get people empowered about the application. So how can we go beyond the superficial initiatives that some of the organizations are doing? I think every initiative is good, clarify this. I'm not judging. I think whenever you engage, it's good. And feel we can go deeper into the real lasting impact. So first of all, what are those biggest misconceptions? And then how can we move from that into creating more meaningful and lasting impact?
I mean, the misconception that I notice during my training and also when giving advice or consulting is the fear factor. I have to embrace diversity, equity, inclusion. Therefore, I'm losing something, or therefore my position it might not be there, or I have to select talent that is not, a good talent, that is not qualified yet. And I'm just like, okay, but you're missing out because you are only looking at a certain way, and I want you to apply different lenses to see how the talent that you're looking for is maybe shaped in a different space or maybe shared in a different environment, right? Like I said in the beginning, we have a talent shortage. So looking for the unicorn, companies don't have that luxury anymore to look for a unicorn. However, companies do have the luxury to create a unicorn. So bring in a horse, invest in them with coaching, with training, with development, with support. Yes, you'll be able to create a unicorn, right? So I believe that there's a one-side way of looking into talent that I see too often, where people are being judged by not having the right education, but they do have the experience to pursue that job. People are being excluded because of their name, because of their age. I've had those situations as well, because for you, many people, when you don't see my gray hair, many people think that I'm 30 or somewhere mid-30 or so, but I'm 44, right? And
I thought you were 30. There you go.
But when you look at my CV, you'll see my resume, you'll see my birth date, right? So when we diminish or delete those elements and look at the skills, the strength, what do people have to offer, then we don't have to have that debate of somebody being too old or somebody being too young. What is the special sauce that they are bringing, the experience, the diversity of thought, the other way of looking into fixing a problem? Because if you're only copying yourself, or if you're only hiring those who look like you, that's not going to make a change. I mean, there are, McKinsey reports, Deloitte have also done studies regarding diversity, diversifying your teams and making sure that you have the different diversity of thought within your team. That's where you are able to excel. We don't want tokenism. I need to explain that. So tokenism is only hiring one person of, let's say, a Black woman, only hiring a Black woman, and then tick the box because you have a diverse hiring. But that person, that token or that individual that is being hired, being the only one, it can activate imposter syndrome. Whereas you as a leader, you're seeking high performance, you're not creating a safe enough environment for that individual to thrive. So I would say, think of ways that you can empower that individual, but also have a conversation about what is needed to empower them so that they feel psychologically safe, and eventually hire more of different people with different backgrounds. The way we do things, we cannot do the same things as the way we did it. We need to elevate and change the way we do things now.
And in a nutshell, in the essence, you believe that people display their behavior or hiring the same people who are within the same domain, within the same frequency that they like. Because of what? Why is that?
It's in a way, it's a fake quality assurance. Okay. Where people think that because they hire the same people from the same university or the same MBA program, that those people they can commit to that quality. But then you're missing out on talent that think differently, right? I don't have a university degree. I have a bachelor degree, and I'm also neurodivergent. The way that my mind thinks, it goes beyond this level. So I'm very creative, very innovative. When people come up with a challenge, I already have like 12 different solutions to share with them. But because I can be too much, I try to create things in bite-sized situations so that people can consume the information that that I have for them. Because otherwise, if I copy paste the way I think and share that as an advice, people might be feeling overwhelmed. So that's also one of the reasons why I designed the Amplify DEI cards. Those are the cards behind me where people can create their own diversity, equity, inclusion recipe for their team or for their organization and have meaningful conversations about what does DEI mean to me. Because if your company is sharing values regarding DEI, it's not the only recipe that your company should honor. You should also adapt from that recipe that the company is creating. So the values that the company has, create your own recipe, right? So I often say, like, the company can share a carrot cake, but you can add your own variances to the carrot cake. And I maybe need to explain it. I often talk about DEI by using food terminology. And the carrot cake is one that I'm famous for. So the way that I explain the carrot cake is every organization wants to serve their clients their best carrot cake. And to be able to do that, we need diversity. We need the diverse ingredients that make the carrot cake tasty, that make it good, that make it fun, but also realize that to create the carrot cake, you need equity. And equity comes in the different tools that your people need. So the different variations, as in maybe you're adding orange juice in your carrot cake, or maybe you need to grate your carrot cake, right? So every person needs their own tools. That's the equitable part. And then inclusion, that's where you bake the cake. But at the moment right now, we don't have many companies or many teams don't have an inclusive environment because they are setting, the managers or leaders are setting the oven temperature too high, or they're setting the oven temperature too low. So not creating the conditions where people can thrive, that's also valuable.
I love the analogy. Wait, that's my favorite cake.
That's mine too. If they are lucky enough, sometimes I bring it with me, and it creates a whole different experience when the carrot cake is in.
Recently, I was in Norway, and a friend of mine knew a carrot cake, and she told me, listen, you have to go to this coffee shop. They have the best carrot cake ever. Yeah. And I went, and she was right. And I met a woman on the shop. I was like, I'm here. There's a carrot cake. It's just this. But I love the analogy of the carrot cake, and how you describe it in such a beautiful way, so people can really understand that we need to create conditions, right? Yeah,
but also DEI is complex, can be broad complex. I want to demystify the complexity by making things bite-sized, because if you overwhelm people, like for instance, if you invite people to an all-you-can-eat restaurant, there are certain things that can happen. Either people feel overwhelmed by the enormous options and they run away. They never come back because they rather have a small menu, and that's what I provide. Or they end up in a food coma, consuming so much of the topics that they are not tipping any point of accelerating DEI, right? So I am activating and supporting people. Start from where you are comfortable with, and every time expand your palate, add some other options to it so that you can taste the different variations of DEI.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Amplify cards behind you. And are they significant and important tool that you would be able to move on that? And how would you use them? What would they do for clients?
Yeah, so the Amplify DEI cards, I have 2 decks. One is about the self. And in coaching, you always start with the self before you tap into the team or the group dynamics. So the self is about your self journey. There are some personal questions in the card deck that can help you, can support you. But what makes my card deck so valuable, so the unique selling point of both these card deck is, it's not just a card deck with only prompts. It also comes with QR codes that help support your understanding. So you get access to an Amplify DEI Micro Academy, where certain topics are being explained. For instance, cancel in versus cancel out, or what ingredients do you need to become an inclusive leader? Or Orlando is also part of it. What is it that you need to know about the growth mindset? And there are some reflective questions that people can ask themselves based upon those cards. And then the blue one, so the teams, that's more crafted for the organization so that people can create their DEI team recipe based upon those cards. And these cards, I mean, there are like, I think 60 different questions where half of them have a QR code. And you can use it at your weekly, right? Just put out one question and use it at your weekly. But also what makes it fun is I added my foodism in it. So some cards are spicy, some cards are hot, and some cards are mild. So I have paprika, jalapeno, and also scotch bonnet. And also know that some cards are catered to be the unaware phase of a team or of a person. Aware phase, are you more aware regarding DEI? And now the last phase is action.
Wonderful, yeah. Wonderful. And I come out to that they're super playful as well. And I think once when we have cards in the mix, we can get this gaming playfulness that is powered by learning, because when you scan the QR code, you also get this nuggets of wisdom. You can learn a little bit deepen into it instead of just playing. Now, I'm really passionate about my topic here. I have 2 more questions. Yeah, they're there. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful. That's your creativity in action, right?
Yeah, that's my neurodivergent brain. I won't tell you how I got started because it cost me a few 5 a.m. interactivities.
Well, good things sometimes they need to be given birth.
Yeah,
they cost some energy.
Definitely.
I know that a lot of leaders are listening to this, and executives also to this specific podcast. Just yesterday we recorded the first podcast on spiritual intelligence, and we got very good feedback from leaders. And sometimes I want to simplify things for people, because you mentioned this is a very complex topic, and people get a little bit worried, overwhelmed, afraid. They don't know what is right thing to do. They, especially in a certain organization that I coach, I can see the willingness. I can see the openness. I can see that they really want to, but they really don't know how. And they get a little bit insecure, right, along the way. So if you were to take traditional leader just from a organization, and he was right now, and he would say, Vivian, please tell me, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Everything is shared so far resonates with me. I understand it. Not only because it's important right now because of the world we're living in, but on the soul level, I know this is the right thing to be done. Because my carrot cake to be fantastic carrot cake.
Exactly.
So what would you tell them? What are the steps that a leader can take to start this journey for themselves? And
I would say I don't believe in telling or forcing people to embrace something, right? But I also said, like, I am very innovative and I use tools to support leader with their journey. So when a leader is open and is ready to activate their DEI journey, I start with virtual reality. The reason, therefore, is because it's a tool that can unlock empathy or can amplify empathy from within. So many people don't know what is happening or what is invisible for them. And what I'm trying to say is all the isms that may face, so a microaggression or the impact of good intention gone bad, and also the feeling of exclusion. Because if you are a leader, definitely a senior leader, where you have never felt exclusion or you're thinking about meritocracy, then this is the tool for you to unlock empathy, but also to amplify empathy and to see what is hidden in front of you. Because oftentimes people share and disclose, well, I faced a situation with a male colleague where he touched me on it inappropriately. And the reaction or the response is, well, why? I don't believe that that person did that, right? But if you don't know the impact of that harm that person caused, the impact of creating that exclusion and using that person using their power for bad, leaders need to be able to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. And therefore I use virtual reality, where you can literally fool your brain with real scenarios. I do have to underline real scenarios. We don't use animation because not everybody is a gamer, and not everybody can relate to a scenario when animation is used. So we're using real scenarios where there 100 things are happening, but because of your lived experience and your work experience, you might only take 10. But the beautiful thing is that you do this together in a group where everybody is disclosing what they are seeing, what they are feeling. And the virtual reality, because you're focused, right? You don't have any distractions. And the scenario is just 5 minutes. But the whole training is like 3 hours. But the scenario is 5 minutes. And within those 5 minutes, I'm able to grab your attention in an amazing way, but also activate your intrinsic motivation to do better. And that piece, it's not often easy to do in a traditional setting or in traditional training. So what I do is start with the VR, because then you can feel and then you can experience what the impact of exclusion is. And no leader, nobody wants to hurt their people on purpose. And nobody wants to hurt their people, being unaware of that. But the moment that you have that experience, that is an experience that will never leave you, because it's able to tap into your intrinsic motivation. And from there on, we can have a conversation about what is it that you need from me to support you, or how do you want to support your people to create that inclusive environment? Because now when you know better, you do better, just like Maya Angelou says, right? But so many leaders are being put in this position, in this VUCA environment where they are dealing with so many challenges, and being a leader in this day and age, it's not easy. Therefore, I also believe that leaders need support, need DEI coaching or support, or somebody in your corner that understands you without feeling you, getting you challenged. But I do have to say that when you are asking for support, don't look for somebody who only looks like you, but also ask for somebody who doesn't look like you, so that they can disclose the challenges that your people might be facing. Because if you are only working with people that look like you, talk like you, then how are you going to open up for the challenges that your team members are facing where they don't look like you and talk like you or come from the same background?
Of course. And I love that this virtual reality element is present, that, you empower people to really feel.
Yes, the feel part. Yeah.
It's just a conversation. And also, I feel beautifully that if we create awareness, once when you're in that situation, or aware, and then, of course, with that awareness, you can do more, right?
Yeah, yeah. And there are studies by PwC that people feel confident, 275% confident. Why? Because they have tested and tried something in a virtual domain where they're able to step on somebody's shoes or feet and the toes and know that the impact is hurting them without diminishing it, and understand that because they have done it before, they understand now that, okay, we need to change and we need to do better. And on the other hand, people are 2.75 or 3.75 more connected with the content because they experience what they did than traditional training. I'm not saying that traditional training is done. I mean, it's an and. I believe in blended training, but starting with virtual reality, it's a must-have tool for any leadership development program, because so many leaders are not walking in the person's shoes, where at the moment right now, I think Business Solver did a study last year where many employees said that only 25% found that their leaders or their organization is empathetic. So that means what's happening with the 75%?
Yeah, exactly. They disassociate, they bypass, they desensitize, they don't feel, basically, because you mentioned the pressure of the world right now. And I'm with you there, that leaders do need support. I lead as well, and I know my pressures. You lead also, you're leading and also consulting, guiding leaders. And with that pressure, there is a psychological response, but with this, lose that ability to feel, because we are too busy, to be in relationship with our feelings. And then things begin snowballing, and we have disconnected organizations instead of organizations buzzing, loving, connected, caring, diversity, equity, and inclusion, because we can relate to each other in a different way. So yeah, we are challenged with this. We all know this, and this is the reason why we're so grateful that you're around. And you can support with your
Yeah,
organization
definitely.
around this. So how do you see the future of this? I mean, we're coming closer to the wrap up of this conversation.
Mhm.
What do you see is going to happen next? How do you see the evolution of this? Are you somebody who is very optimistic? Are you somebody who is realistic or
Mhm.
pessimistic? How do you see this in your work right now? And also, where do you see us going with this?
Okay, as a coach, there is a code, right? We cannot staple, compound so many questions on top of each other.
I'll ask question by question. So, how
Yeah,
do you feel optimistic about this future?
I'm
Yeah.
realistic. I'm realistic, optimistic in the environment that I am working in, but I'm realistic because what's happening right now is the US. There is a challenge there regarding who is going to claim the country for the president chair. That is also causing some tension that is coming across in Europe. And Europe also some politics are changing for different direction. And I live in a country where far right has more power. But I do see that sometimes this is needed to shift for positive. So I try to be realistic and work with the clients that value and believe that with true inclusion, they can grow, they can achieve their business goals, they can get more talent and also retain talent, right? Because getting them in is one thing, but retaining them, that's where so many companies are dropping the ball. And I believe that with with the support of virtual reality or whatever support you're getting regarding DEI, know that you are able to win within your team, within your organization. So that's what I see. I cannot control the whole world, but I can control my world, my domain, right? I can support and empower my domain and my whole world. So oftentimes when people come up with what's happening in the world and what's this, what's that, but you're not responsible for what's happening in the world. You're only responsible for your environment and how can you empower your environment to embrace inclusion? That's where I.
Wonderful. And the future of it, in 2 years' time, in 5 years' time, how do you see evolution?
I see more and more companies, especially in Europe, stepping up when it comes to DEI. I mean, what helps is also the EU mandates it more throughout the ESG reporting, right? So that's really helpful. And I'm hoping that more and more companies are going beyond the gender and the age aspects. I mean, there are some companies that are applying that and also know that you don't have to hide your GDPR. There are other ways to still anonymize what's being shared by adding the other values. There are ways. But I hear too often people hide behind the GDPR, and I do understand that you have to honor your GDPR, but there are ways to ask for the consent while still committing to the GDPR. So that's what I see. I see different generations inspiring each other. So not only the younger generation, but also the older generation. I mean, I have a friend who I collaborate often, and she is almost ticking 70. But she's now teaching me about AI tools where I was the person who taught her about tech tools. So I see young and old collaborating better, multi-generations collaborating better because they have different tools, different equitable tools to support each other in their individual learning. So being the case that within Europe, but also in the US and other places that older generations are working longer in the workplace, but they're also retiring, we need to also embrace the different multi-generations as well and empower yourself as a leader. The moment that you do that, the moment that you add DEI to your menu as a leader, that's where I believe that you can win and you definitely become top of mind.
Right. Thank you so much, Vivian. So much to unfold in this topic, but
I know.
in essence, and really use this wonderful carrot cake that I hope everybody will.
Carrot cake sale will spike everywhere.
Exactly. We're gonna have a carrot cake, demand. But really, I mean, I really stay with that analogy, and I'm really grateful to you for explaining it in that way, giving people the essential learning around this topic. Of course, we can branch into more depth next time when we talk. And for everybody else, we're going to quote Vivian's contact details. It's got TNM Coaching, the programs that Vivian is running, on the description of this podcast. So make sure that to get in touch with us. We love to support you and grow your leadership capacity as well, and create these wonderful working environments that we all look forward to experience. Vivian, thank you so much for today's conversation. And everybody else, thank you so much for tuning into TNM Coaching Unplugged and Zoran Todorovic Interconnected podcast. You're listening. It's a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoran, for having me. I enjoyed this conversation.